All right, welcome back. We are continuing on the effective annual rates conversation, and we're just going to give a little bit more in detail from that previous lecture. Okay, so let's say that we have shopped around and we have determined that we have 3 different accounts that we can do. Okay, so one thing to remember before we start doing any of this is that the more compounding that happens, if we have the same simple rate, the more often it compounds, the higher the rate is going to be. If you come up with an effective rate that's lower than the simple rate, you did something wrong. As well as if you come up with a rate that is dramatically different, right? Let's say simple rate is 12% and you come up with 374%, you did something incorrect. Okay, they're going to be somewhat close to the simple rate, and they're always going to be higher the more often that you compound. Okay, now we're just going to give an example here and just say, all right, we're looking at opening up an account at 3 different institutions, right? We did some shopping around. We were smart consumers, and we went and figured out, and we looked the bank manager right in the face and said, hey, what is your effective rate? What am I actually going to get paid? Okay. Bank A comes up with this as showing a 15% compounded daily. Okay. And then Bank B has 15.5% quarterly, and then Bank C is 16% annually. Okay, which one of these accounts should we do? Okay, just directly looking at it right away, we look at the top interest rate and say 16%. All right, let's do it. Well, that's not exactly the case because one of these other ones might actually get us a higher amount of rate. Okay, so what we're going to do here is that we're going to compute what our effective rates are going to be. Okay, so for Bank A, okay, we are going to take and figure out our effective rate. We're going to say 1 plus our 15%, remember it's 0.15, not 15, divided by 360, and then it's going to be raised to which power? This 360th power. Okay, remember that this number has to equal that number. So we plug that in, and then we subtract 1 off of it. And now when you're doing this, I'll show you how to do this in the calculator in just a bit. But keep in mind that you want to keep everything in the calculator as much as possible. And so what this number is, when we compute it out, is that this gives us a value of 16.2%. Okay? Investment A, its effective annual rate is going to be 16.2%. Okay, now let's look at B. Okay, B is going to be a similar way, so it's going to be 1 plus 0.155 divided by what? Quarterly. How many quarters are there in a year? 4 quarters, so there's 4 time periods in that year. We divide by 4. Which power do we raise it to? The 4th power, right? Because it is going for 4 times, right? So we got the quarterly rate, and then we're getting to the compounding 4 times, right? And then we subtract 1 off of that. All right, and we end up getting 16.4%. Right? So which one of these should we do? Okay, looking at them, when we are comparing which investment we want to go after, we're going to go after the one that has the highest effective annual rate. Which one of these 3 has the highest effective annual rate? Well, it's going to be investment B, right? 16.4%. 16.4 is greater than 16.2 is greater than 16. So we're going to go in the order of B. So we're going to go B, A, and then C. Okay? And that's the way that we come up with these values. We're coming up with that effective annual rate. We're trying to see exactly what we're going to be gaining or exactly what we're going to be paying. Okay? This example was us putting funds into an account. The other example is, let's say that I was borrowing money. Which one of these would I prefer to have? Well, if I was borrowing, it would be investment C because it has the lowest rate. Okay, so that's the basic part of the effective annual rate. And I just want to clarify just on a point just real quick is that more compounding, that means that the effective annual rate rises. Okay, that's a crucial point. Okay, The second one is that the EAR is always higher, or greater than or equal to the simple rate. Okay? It's always greater than or equal to the simple rate. It's never going to be less. And the third point, it's going to be relatively close. Okay, the two of those are going to be relatively close to each other, so that way we can help check and make sure that our numbers just aren't totally off base. Okay, so that was our discussion on effective annual rate, and we'll be jumping into more interest rate